top trends in 2025. You're listening to Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, Serial Entrepreneur Secrets Revealed. And today we are going to be talking about top trends in 2025. And it's open mic, so you might not know this because you're listening to it in podcast or on replay on Clubhouse. But we are a live show every Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern. We do this show, and we really welcome you to come. We really want you to come on stage and participate. And I think that's what makes this show more interesting than other podcasts, in that we have a live audience, live participation. It's interesting. It makes the show very interesting. And my fellow co-host, Michelle Van Tilburg, is up here on stage, and we have Mimi Ostrander, who's the editor of Startup Club. She has done an unbelievable job on Startup.club. Just this week, we added the newsletters, and these newsletters that she puts out with her team are incredible. Their last newsletter, we had 70 growth hacks or micro, and each one of them you can apply to your business, and it can have a major impact on your business. We've have AI tips in there. We have the time to sell index. We'll have an updated time to sell index in January on the next newsletter. That's something you cannot get unless you go to startup.club and sign up to the email list. And in that email list, we also send out the speakers. We have authors booked all the way to March, authors and experts and serial entrepreneurs booked all the way to March. But I think, Michelle, one of my favorite shows are open mic. And today we're doing open mic top trends in 2025. And I just think that, I don't know, could be the election, it could be something, but I feel there's a change in the air. Startups, it's been brutal for startups. We went through the pandemic. A lot of companies went under during the pandemic. We went through the boom in 2022 and then the crash in 2023, the tech wreck, or might be getting my years wrong here. Sorry. I think 2022 was the tech wreck and the crypto crash. And then it's just been lackluster going forward. And one of the things that hit us really hard, a lot of us startups, and this, Michelle, is interest rates. And the interest rates in paw.com went from 3% on a $2.8 million loan to 9%. And do the math. That's a lot of interest we have to pay every month just to break even. It's been a struggle, to be honest, quite frank. But there seems to be change in the air. What do you think, Michelle? Yeah, and today we're having fun. We're making predictions, right? I think that the inflation rate will come down in 2025 and the interest rates will follow. And the reason for that, I think there's two forces that work here. One of them, it does appear that government spending in the United States will be tamped down. And the second, but then we may have seen this show before. We don't know what the government's going to do. We never really know. But the second is this AI. AI is producing a productivity boom in the industry. And for those two reasons, I actually think we're going to see lower inflation and ultimately lower interest rates. Will we get back to 3%? Probably not. But I could see a small business like ours paying by the end of next year 6% versus the 9% that we're paying today. And I think and that would be a game changer not only for paw.com but for the real estate industry. A lot of mortgages, especially on second homes, are done with investor loans or through banks or small community banks, and their interest rates have been really brutal. I did one recently, I think it's 6.37, but the two before that, I did them at 8% on two other units that we bought, or houses, sorry. And I think that with these two things, AI and controlling government spending will drive down the inflation rate. And ultimately, the Fed will react. And I think that's a very positive thing for for next year. And again, my prediction on a Fed funds rate, if you want to go really into specifics here, I think we're 4.25 to 4.5 right now. I could see us 3.5 at the end of next year.
That would be amazing. That would be really amazing. So I'm going to go to another prediction if you're ready, Colin.
Yeah, I'm ready. I don't want to think about inflation and interest rates ever again.
I know, I know. I see one of the big things that has been happening and that's going to continue to happen, I see is this the whole ecosystem, the whole I'm going to say, how do I say this? People are increasingly want to go more green. That I think is really going to accelerate in the next coming years. It's been a trend that people are trying to work towards, but I think there's a lot of underlying things here that are going on. If tariffs go up, for example, and different manufacturers are found, at least I know for us, we are going to lean more into being green. And we already starting to do that even with our like packaging and our boxing. So I think that's a really good positive thing. I think going green is going to get more popular in products.
And I think another trend that we've seen since the pandemic is businesses operating more and more without office spaces. But I think the shared office environment, the WeWork that we have out there, even our facility, we have an incubator called Startup Club, same name in Fort Lauderdale. More and more companies are starting to think, how can I operate in more of a virtual way? I think that trend, even though it snaps back a little bit, I still feel like we're heading down that path where companies are going to be more and more working in these shared office spaces or working from home. A lot of employees working from home. I think it's less and less important where your employees are located and more important about the qualifications and the personality profiles of your employees. What do you think of that one, Michelle?
That's definitely been the case with us. It's really, I believe it is important and it does help for people to be together to brainstorm and ideate and help each other. I think that's critically important. But for us, we're very flexible in terms of letting people have a more flexible schedule, at least for most positions. I do, I am continuing to hear that more big companies are making people come in. But I think for the, let's just say the mid-tier and the smaller companies, we're still going to be flexible. I think it's key to us attracting good talent as well, quite frankly.
That's a good question there about talent, right? Are we going to have a talent shortage? I just heard on the news they're talking about SoftBank, Japanese company, coming in and spending $100 billion and 100,000 jobs. I'm like, that's going to be harder on startups if we lose all the talent, right? And the demand for talent gets expensive again. So that could be a trend that we see as the economy comes back. It could have some negative effects on startups and the ability for startups to hire employees at lower costs. And then what does that do? That actually increases the trend of outsourcing, business process outsourcing, or sourcing to Philippines or India or Ukraine. And hopefully, there's a prediction. I do believe the war is going to end. And if you all know me or you know my background, I've had a company in Ukraine now for 20 some odd years. I'm a partner in a company, and we have 800 programmers there. And it's been a very tough go, let me tell you. We've had employees who've died. The At one point, our office facility was 2 miles away from the front line. It was insane. That was the number fourth day of the war. But I'm going to make that prediction. I'm going to make a prediction here that it is going to be resolved. I don't think either side is going to like how it's resolved. It may even be imposed by the European governments and by the American. But I think that war is going to stop, and that's going to lead to more availability of coders and programmers and whatnot, because they are a strong, fairly populous country with a lot of strong educational background in coding and those kind of things. Which brings me to the next one, Michelle, is this concept of a solopreneur and being able to operate a business using AI and using offshore or even in onshore consultants, certain types of companies to help run a business. Like we have a friend who's running an e-commerce business and he's doing it by himself right now, and he's got different people helping him out with different areas of the e-commerce company. I do believe that we're going to see because of AI, the first unicorn, solo unicorn. Can you imagine that? A solo unicorn, someone who can build $1 billion company as a solopreneur. I don't know if it's going to happen next year. That might be a little too much. But over the next 3, 4, 5 years, I think because of AI, we're definitely going to see a trend towards utilizing AI in a bigger way to help scale your startup. I think we all agree on that. But eventually, you might even see a solo unicorn. AI is it just continues to evolve, and we see so many new tools that are coming out with AI tools that we change the way we do things. Like for instance, Mimi now includes a deep dive on every newsletter, so you can listen to this like podcasts. Pretty amazing podcast, Michelle. I think they're even better than us. Yeah, they're pretty good. They go back and forth a little more. I think they should. We argue a bit more. I don't know. I think we're more real. But that being said,
I hope
it's
so.
exactly. What do you think, though, Michelle? Is AI really going to make a difference in 2025 for startups?
Yeah, I think it is going to make a huge difference. For me, I don't look at it as much as like doing copy and whatnot, which is an amazing, fabulous use of it. I really look forward as a leader in a business using it to help us be smarter and make smarter decisions. Like you and I were talking about this morning, we we don't really have sophisticated A/B testing and ad generation or whatever it is. I look forward to using AI for the things that, let's just say, I couldn't get anyone to do, right? Or hire somebody easily to do copywriting. I'm really like looking forward to using AI for these hard things. Like how do you optimize an ad? How do you optimize pricing or in an interface? I'm going to tell you, I've worked in a lot of companies, big and small, and most are not very sophisticated on that. And I think it's going to set people that can really master those tools to a whole different level, Colin.
Yeah, I just we see the way it's working now with custom GPTs and how we manage contracts and then how we created custom GPTs to do like a personality profiling and those things. We did that for the workbook, start workbook, and it's just all these tools that you can use now that are free, and you don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be a coder to use any of this stuff. It's trust me, I'm not a geek. I've only aspired to be one, but I really am pretty bad at technology. Even Mimi can say that. I can't believe I meet with Mimi every Monday, and she's okay. I'll set the room up. I'll do this. She does it so fast. That's the next thing. Maybe that's a trend too. We're gonna see younger. You're gonna see more entrepreneurs who are younger beginning to start new companies because I think that the complexities have dropped dramatically. If you go back to the 90s, Michelle, we paid $100,000 just to have a phone system in our office. It was a Lucent or Nortel, one of those phone systems. Today, you can get a virtual one for Ring Central or whatever for $49 a month, or it can be completely distributed. And technology continues to drive down the costs for startups, and I think that's going to continue. I think because when a lot of these technologies that we use include AI in them. Like the company we use for paw.com for support, it's Zendesk, I think, right?
Yes, it's Zendesk.
Yeah, and they're starting to add a lot of features that we can utilize so we don't have to have as many agents, right? And I think, and which will hopefully ultimately increase the profitability. I keep talking about AI and how people are going to potentially lose jobs, but I also see so many new jobs being created. It's like every time we've seen this massive technological shifts in history, there's this prediction that there's going to be massive unemployment. What do you think? Is that going to happen in 2025 where we get to a world where there just are no jobs and we need universal income applied?
Yeah, I
That'd be
don't think
interesting
so.
to, you don't think it's going to go that way? Okay.
I don't know. There'll be more jobs, is what I think. But I have another one for us, okay? And I know
Go ahead.
this
Yeah.
is
And I
right
got one
up.
more too. And then the audience. If you're in the audience, you got a
Yes.
prediction. It's Friday afternoon. This is the last show we're doing of the year. And we just want to hear from you. I know you've got some thoughts. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just jump on stage, raise your hand, jump on stage. We'd love to hear from you what your predictions are for 2025. What's your thought there, Michelle?
Yeah, all right. So here's another one, and maybe I'm not, it's not brain surgery telling you this, but IPO volumes are projected to grow. And I think that's a pretty amazing thing. We were already seeing that happen. It went from very low levels, and people are saying, experts, not me, that it's primed to go to about, I think they're saying around 40 billion. So that's 85 new listings. And they're saying that's like returning somewhat to pre-pandemic normalcy. So I think that's a pretty huge thing, especially for the folks here in this club.
Yeah, might so you think it'll actually be easier to raise
I
money
do. I think it will be.
in 20 I think so too, because it's been
It's
brutal.
been brutal.
It's been brutal since the tech wreck of 22. It's been brutal.
Yeah.
And I think that even the time to sell index, which really also could be the time to raise money index too, but the time to sell index that we do and we include in the newsletter, it's based on IPO data. And first of all, it's based on my first 30 years career in entrepreneurship and how many times in my early career, in my 90s, I messed things up and because of timing and the dot-com crash and everything, lost a little bit of money there, around $130 million at the time, but 95% of my wealth because I exited poorly in the dot-com crash. But then we kept at it and we took a company public 6 years later and sold that company 1 month before the Lehman crisis. And then we started a company called Dot Club Domains and we sold that about 6 months before the tech wreck. And then we also started a company called Geeks for Less, which is the Ukrainian IT services company. And I was able to sell two-thirds of my shares. I had no visibility into this one, but I was able to sell two-thirds of my shares before the Ukraine war broke out. Bad things do happen. That's a central point in the books, exit repeat. And using the book, using the data from the book, we create custom GPTs, and that information from those GPTs from that book is used to make those GPTs. Now, the time to sell index is based on the trough to peak average over the last 30 years. Okay. And we have three major troughs and three major peaks that have occurred. So I took the average of those three peaks and based on the IPO and then where are we at currently based on the former trough and how much have we come up? Because just so you know, 2022, I don't think almost 1,000 public listings, and 2023 was about 150. It's about, don't quote, I don't have the exact numbers right here. I'm doing this all from memory, but we have the exact numbers in the data that we use for the time to sell index. But in 2026, sorry, 2020, getting tired here. 10 days of parties, by the way. It's 12 days of giving. I think it's 12 days of parties for me in December. Anyway, 2024 was a little tiny bit better than
All right.
2023. I think we're
So
going to come in
I'm gonna
around. Sorry, Michelle. Yeah, let me just finish the point. But you're right. So the number of IPOs that occur in 2025, that's going to be critical, right? If we start seeing 300, 400 listings in 2025, then that's going to make a big difference. And that everything flows from that. However, there is about a 6 month to 8 month lag effect, but everything flows from the public markets. So the public markets by the companies from private equity or venture capital that are venture backed, the venture backed companies, investing companies and it goes down all the way down the eco chain. And sort of startups were at the bottom of this chain. So sometimes it does take time to take effect, but we are going to see more IPOs and the time to sell index is going to start to rise. Right now, it's 3.6 out of 100. And my prediction, it'll be over 20% by end of 2025. I really am optimistic about this.
All right. I'm gonna throw one other in there while we wait for some other folks to join us on the stage. This is one um, that I think could be massive impact to consumers in the e-commerce is we're starting to see a real emergence of these kind of alternative carrier services. So what do I mean by that? Here's an example. You tell me, Colin, how is it possible that Temu and Shein can ship a product from China cheaper than I can ship a product from Florida to California? Okay. There's something going on here, the beginning of something. And they call it, I think it's express delivery. People are starting to figure this out. Obviously, we believe there's going to be tariffs that will change that specifically for TikTok, Temu, Shein, et cetera. But I do think there is a huge learning here for 3PLs and other carriers to change their business model, Colin. And they're using freelance carriers, meaning what Uber Eats does or somebody else like that does, instead of these large conglomerates. And in fact, even in the financial news this morning, they were talking about how FedEx is dividing their company, and they're going to divide it, the freight part of the business off so they can operate it more efficiently. So I think there are some big emerging trends that are going to come in shipping carriers. It's going to be a huge positive impact, fortunately, for consumers and businesses.
Yeah, and if you're talking about the e-commerce, let me add a little bit here to it as well. We saw shipping containers rise to about $25,000 in 2022, and it was just devastating to the e-commerce industry. And that was the beginning of sort of the collapse of the e-commerce industry. We have a lot of e-commerce companies that we're connected to that I'm invested in. It's definitely been one of the areas that have struggled the most in our incubator. But we saw these container costs increase dramatically, and what happened at that point was a lot of they started manufacturing a lot of containers. And what we're going to see, and this is a long-term prediction, because it takes a couple of years before they can catch up. Because they were manufacturing so much, I believe there's going to be an oversupply of containers in 2025, driving cost per container, average cost much lower. And I think, and there's another reason for that too. I think that again, it's these wars. The wars cause problems with the bombing of these boats, ships that can carry containers by the Houthis. If that can stop, then all of a sudden you no longer have to go the long way around, which means containers will be used for less, which again will drive down the prices. That's positive. The negative is this whole global drive towards isolationism, this idea that we have to build everything in our own country. And that does work when it comes to certain critical things, but it's going to be very difficult to do that to function as a thriving economy, especially in these smaller countries as well, without a global free trade environment. Now, I say free trade. I also say fair trade. And what you're talking about here with these Chinese companies shipping to America without paying any taxes or tariffs, and their shipping is almost cheaper than what you can get in the US. That's wrong. That's obviously wrong. That's not fair trade. I totally agree with you that there's got to be a model in place that's definitely fair and free trade, and then hopefully that will also drive prices down globally as
Yeah.
well. But I'm fearful of the isolationist trends that we're seeing not only just in the US, by the way, we're seeing this in Europe as well. We see this in the UK. We're seeing that globally, that more and more countries are beginning to think of using tariffs as ways of blocking competitors inside their country, which isn't necessarily good, but it is good in some ways. So I'm not, there's good and bad to it. Anyway, Shadows, we love having you on. Happy holidays, happy new year. I know the show will come out probably at the end of the year or early next year as our prediction show. But we've really enjoyed having you join us on stage as a guest, Shadows. And what do you think about 2024? What are some of your thoughts?
Oh, I think 2025 is going to get interesting. Definitely AI is going to be expanding. OpenAI announced O3 today, which is actually the next step from O1, but they named it O3 because apparently they have to keep up their tradition of naming things badly. That's their words, not mine. And of course, when you were talking about the more virtual working, one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of creating a virtual world where people are coming together in meetings. So instead of coming on to Zoom, they're actually in an environment that looks something like where they would be working. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, it adds to that remote work. It's working together. It's
And
almost like a use case for the metaverse, right?
it's not an actual metaverse, but it's getting close. It's a visual environment that you meet in these circles and you can share content. You can have presentation camps. Some people are running businesses through them. I've got an art gallery set up on one. Artemis down there, she's got a fiber artist community that she's building, and we'll be starting a group there in the new year. And the guy that actually founded the platform, he has all of his staff in virtual offices. They're spread out all over the world, and they have a virtual office in the space that he has built. Pretty cool watching it come together and people finding different ways of using it.
Yeah, I'm wondering what I don't know what technologies are going to break through next year. I still think the metaverse is going to struggle a little bit. We have a company in our incubator that's called IMX3, and what they do is they actually scan museums, and they've been leading this market, and they've been doing pretty well actually, getting a lot of government contracts. But they scan the museums, and you go into this metaverse, and you don't have to have glasses on either. You can just go to the website and just walk through it, and you can see the art in very a lot of detail. And they've had a lot of success with that. I do think with AI, it's going to evolve rapidly. And I know we were talking about generative AI and the step above that. If you can, I can't remember the name of it right now. I don't know if you remember it, Shadows, but
There's something more than generative AI.
yeah, I don't have the name right now. But this idea that AI can start thinking on its own
Oh,
and
AGI.
AGI. Yeah, what's
Yeah,
the AGI stand for again? Yeah,
forgotten
I know
exactly
we
what
did
it
it. It does
means.
show up just like a year ago. We're getting closer and closer to that. And I'm also seeing other AIs start to really perform. I started using Grok. I bought a membership about a year ago in it, and it was horrible. And I started using it the other day. In fact, we used it to come out with the last article for top 25 startup books in for 2025. And we went to Grok and we asked the question, can you, based on the Amazon rankings, et cetera, for starting a business, what, and it came up with 50 books with a particular list and had a whole criteria, which we printed out on the thing. And by the way, I was happy to see Grok gave Start Scale Exit Repeat a position on the list. I would have been frustrated if it didn't. And we've won 23 global awards this year, so I've been pretty happy with that. But it works super fast, like super fast. And I wonder if we're going to start to see more niche AIs, like AIs that do particular things. Like, for instance, my mother-in-law, who is 100% blind, she fell in love with the Meta glasses. These are glasses you can put on, and you click a button or you say, "Hey, Meta, what am I looking at?" And it describes the scene in front of you. So there's the AI that they have is very good at images and taking images or the world around you and describing that. And that particular AI works very well for people who are 100% blind. And she uses these glasses probably about 6 hours a day right now. But they also answer phone calls and do all that kind of stuff as well. But we're going to probably see more niche AIs. I don't know. What do you think, Michelle?
And AGI is artificial, what was it? General
That's it. Yeah,
intelligence?
artificial general intelligence. That's correct. Yeah.
Right. All right. So I'm sorry. Back to your question for me. What was it,
Niche, like
Colin?
the idea that AIs will become more niche.
Oh, specialized, like highly specialized. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like just think of all the applications for medical, like detecting cancer and treatments. Absolutely. Because I think we all know, like right now, what we all typically use, maybe others don't, is just broad public information databases. These databases are going to go very high tech, very intensive with proprietary information. So I think it has to be that way. Absolutely.
I think
Especially
it.
using, yeah, go ahead.
I think in addition to that, you're going to see more people creating their own bots, their own chat bots that can interact with customers and visitors, where they're building the information into the bot.
Yeah, that's a great application. But yeah, taking your proprietary data, knowledge, et cetera, I mean, that's huge, especially for these very high end ones, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I love the way that the custom GPTs can do that. We did one again for that workbook. We did one for called personalityprofileai.com, and it can measure your disc profile, your Myers-Briggs, also compare you to other celebrities that you would know. And it's very
Other
interesting to see.
celebrities, as though we're celebrities.
When you win 23 awards on a book,
I know he is, but not me.
No, no, Shadows is the celebrity here. That's
He
right.
is.
No, but it compares you to celebrities, and then we have one for company values AI. We're doing a workshop. I think it's January 11th on Entree, and we'll be working at. No, I'm sorry, not Entree. Oh my gosh, I am doing one with JLD on. It's a podcast, and it's on company values. And we're going to take Entrepreneurs on Fire, and I'm going to put him through the ringer and develop company value statements. But this AI, this custom GPT, was used based on the data from the book, and it took that and helped create these value statements for your company. Again, it's free. I know OpenAI charges $20 a month, and if you don't pay that, then they end up limiting your usage. But for the fact of the matter is, these things are free and more accessible. And again, it all comes back to these tools and ideas that you can, as a startup, as an individual, create so many things so much faster than it's so much, yeah, so much less expensive than what it used to cost even a year ago. It's absolutely phenomenal. And we're going to continue to see that. And this idea that you're right, niche, and I think you're going to have miniature AI, custom GPTs or whatever, personalized for you. And I do that with contracts. I upload a contract, I ask it questions, and I beat it up, and I've ask it to write amendments and everything.
so the bots that I was talking about are not actually GPTs. They're built separately, and they can be installed independently.
Yeah, no, I know that. And we're doing that for Business Plan AI at Startup Club, where we're going to have at businessplanai.com, you're going to be able to create a four sticky note business plan. And you're also going to be able to create a financial plan. And it's going to be absolutely free. And our team's been working on that, our AI. I have some interns that we hired. We don't have a lot of budget here, but we keep making progress. But we're getting there. And we're trying to design it where all you do is it asks you questions, you answer the questions, it creates a full financial business plan, and hopefully we can take that further down the road and start creating private placement memorandums and those kind of things as well. But obviously, it's important to get legal advice when you do anything. I'm not going to suggest that AI will replace all lawyers, but I believe they can do a lot of the work without paying lawyers. And it makes sometimes it's a lot easier for a lawyer to just simply edit what you've got and take it from there. But I will say they do hallucinate. We've seen that happen this week. We saw a little bit of hallucination on using AI in some of the projects we worked on. So you have to be aware of what you're doing. Again, if you're in the audience, you want to come on stage, share your prediction. It's Friday afternoon, and we're bouncing around all over the place here, from AI to e-commerce to tariffs, inflation, taxes. We haven't talked about taxes. I do think the environment in the United States is looking favorable for in the tax situation, but we don't know. I can't tell you how it's going to go. We will see. I wish there was more tax incentives for smaller businesses. Quite frankly, like why does a small business have to pay the same corporate tax as a $1 trillion company? The same corporate tax rate. I think that it would be nice to have more incentives for small businesses. I know there's been some ideas that were floated around you can get $50,000, their first $50,000 would be tax free or whatever. I'd really like to see when they do that tax package next year, if what's in there for startups. Because startups fuel this country, they fuel the world. They're the backbone, and we can't just have three big tech companies that run everything. It's startups that can actually change the world. And I'm not saying these tech companies can't. We can change the world and we can make a big difference. So I'm hoping that they do some. I'm hoping some good news on the tax front there. And my prediction is that there will be something there for startups. All right. Any other thoughts? Any other predictions you have? Maybe Mimi or Kyle, if you want to come in, or
I was going to ask you a question, Colin.
yeah,
You
go ahead.
mentioned the four post-it note that you're creating a bot for. How many other bots could you create from your book? Because you've got several processes in there,
Oh,
don't
okay.
you?
But I've been using custom GPTs to be quite frankly, they're so much faster to create. I could do it in 2 hours. we've got the scale workbook that's going to come out in January. We've been working on it for about 6 months. And in that workbook, we have really cool exercises to help you. I think it will be the most comprehensive scale workbook for any company that wants to scale. And we have these exercises. So what we did is we took the book and we created exercises. So instead of just learning theoretically about goal setting, for instance, we actually laid out the format so you can actually do goal setting in the booklet. And then what we also have are these GPTs. So we have a QR code, you scan it, it opens up a GPT, and like I said, you can check your personality. Every person on their team should do this test. It's free. Check their personality because when you know the people on your team and what their personality profiles are, then you can begin to manage them and coach them and help them be successful. But if you don't understand your personality, you don't understand their personalities, then you might have a lot of clashing. And once you start recognizing that we're all different and unique and diverse, and that we should just understand that, then you can be more effective. And that's one of the ones we did for personality profile, and that's one of the ones that I thought we did on chat on custom GPT. And I think, and we got more of this. We got a lot more. We got to pick a domain name. We got to find the perfect domain name for your business, and it uses rules based on the book. Sometimes I bring in other data points as well. Like for instance, we partnered with Rhythm Systems, who does the goal setting and strategic planning. So we have a lot of their exercises in there. And we've also partnered with Jack Daly and Dan, who wrote the sales playbook. And so we partnered him because we in this book we have, for instance, a methodology to create a sales playbook, and you can actually do it with the exercise, but we want to create an AI that would help you do that. I think with Business Plan AI, I want it to be more accessible. And that's why, and it's probably a little bit more comprehensive. I'm certain that a good custom GPT, you could create these business plans. But I think that just given the open AI restrictions and things like that, we just wanted something available for anyone. They just go to the domain and it works. It does work like that with custom GPTs, but there is some, if you don't have that membership on OpenAI, they really do restrict your usage of that. So, what else? What are we going to see? Here's a prediction: we're going to have a hurricane.
Oh, don't say that.
I know it just always happens.
We've
You know,
already had, no,
we
we
live in
went
Florida.
years, without it. Let's be, come on. The probability is weighing in your favor now after three.
3 hurricanes, yeah,
I
on the
know,
west coast
I'm
of
just
Florida.
gonna say, we're not gonna
Yeah,
have an earthquake.
not in Florida, but maybe
Yeah,
who knows? Maybe
e-
California. Yeah,
exactly.
these
All right.
crises do continue, right? Yeah. What about self-driving? Anybody
Oh,
haven't
that's a
thought
good
about
one.
that? Is that really going to
That's-
happen? I remember Musk saying we'll have self-driving by 2020 on all the Teslas, and today, there is a version of it. My brother has the vehicle. I have the old Tesla, and honestly, I like my old Tesla better because I have more control. I don't have. It's not looking at my eyes. And the new ones, if you move your eyes away, and it goes very slow. The self-driving, and almost frustratingly slow when it's driving, and it doesn't. I just don't think it's there yet, and it's not very convenient. It's not as convenient as you think it would be. But who knows? Maybe we will begin to see a lot more cities like Phoenix and San Francisco who do have those Waymo vehicles. Maybe we'll see more vehicles in other cities next year as well that are all fully self-driving.
All right. So what
Yeah, I
else?
know. What else? What else? Predict
No,
Startup
I
Club.
know.
What are predictions for Startup Club? We're going to come out with the business plan AI. I think that'll be a big one. And yeah, and I don't know. I think we're pretty much there up front. We're going to see another James Bond, and who's going to be James Bond? That's going to be interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Let me ask AI what their predictions are for 2025. All right. And let's see what they've got. Just while I'm doing that, if you like, Michelle, if you could just give me 10 seconds here to look that up. No dead air. We don't like dead air,
Yeah,
right?
yes, all right. So predictions. Yeah, one thing I saw, I keep seeing, and is increased customization and personalization on websites. And again, I'm going to say a lot of this is probably enabled by AI. So these are things that, like, I don't know about you, Colin, you're young, but when I first started off my career working on e commerce sites, even B2B sites that were online, That was so expensive. It would cost you $1 million. No kidding. So there's a lot of really cool things coming up. But I see Iman is on the stage, and I see she has some really interesting comments here. Iman, what do you think? We're not quite hearing you, Iman.
You sound very distant.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you at all. It was very faint. And now you're on mute. So maybe you just need to turn the volume up.
What about now? Is it better?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say hi for everyone on the stage and in the listening lounge, guys. It's been a while. I'm not coming to Startup Club, but I was regular here. However, for the trends, I'm seeing a lot of energy efficiency in my space as business development consultant. I'm having a lot of startup ideas to take a look at and just go through the strategies and everything. So I'm seeing a lot of energy efficiency, the sustainability goes into the startup trends too fast. This year is going to be a lot of sustainable solutions will dominate as energy efficient technologies, especially with the inflation in the whole world. So we need to cut costs a little bit. I think environmentally also is going to be way desirable approach. Also, I had another project which is about the circular economy, which is also coming back to the sustainability aspect. The circular economy means that the reuse of the recycling um, all material because that's adding more into um, the new economy and the budgeting approach in the world, as well as the sustainability as well. So we're going through a lot of maybe indie agents, AI platforms. I'm seeing this as a smart move with the technology, the neurological enhancements as well, going very deep in the healthcare industry. So we're seeing a lot of smart use for AI and for technology overall, mix it up with sustainability. That's my opinion around the trends in 2025 goes to 2026 as well. So because we're trying to help the Mother Earth to just like survive what we're doing to it. So that's what I'm seeing around here. Over to you, Colin.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it's the circular economy. You know, interesting when I went into the AI, it actually came up as well. That's gonna be a bigger trend of this idea that reuse products, right? Ontario has really gotten good at reusing bags at the grocery stores and this whole concept of reuse. And I also think that in the whole environmental area, I heard a statistic that about only 30% of what we recycle actually is recycled. And that's because a lot of these plastics, they're very different. But the things that recycle the most, the highest percentages are things like newspaper and cans, aluminum. So I think we might see more of a trend more towards those things because they're very recyclable.
And brown cardboard.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
That's true. And so that's very good that you brought that up as well. I'm looking at the list right now, and I think we pretty much hammered it on the AI. They did say that visual search and AI generated ads will grow in digital marketing. And that's something we've been talking about a lot, Michelle, as well. AI will optimize sustainability efforts and carbon tracking as well. So it sounds like there'll be a little bit more technology applied to helping the environment, which could be very positive. Business in the economy, the voluntary carbon market is expected to grow significantly. And then again, and then circular economy models will become more widely adopted. Sustainable finance will expand with ESG linked products and green bonds gaining prominence. Again, really, almost really a lot of positive areas in environment. I think that's, I don't know, I'm not as optimistic, but consumer behavior, increased focus on health and wellness. And I think this may be the year that America wakes up to a lot of the things that we have in our foods that are just horrible. I think that's a trend, and we saw that with RFK bringing that to the election, and now in a position where he can actually make a difference. Growing demand for personalized AI-driven experiences, and then we have design and lifestyle. Home design trends will emphasize wellness and sustainability. Interactive and shoppable ads will become more common, and increased adoption of smart home technologies. Yes, that whole computer to computer model. Devices talking to devices, that kind of stuff. I actually think we're getting closer to the point where even websites, there'll always be websites and domains and whatnot, but AIs might start talking to AIs. Like, for instance, OpenTable, instead of becoming an app and with all this coding behind it, it becomes an AI that communicates with other AIs. Well, you can say to your AI, hey, can you book me a restaurant at this location? And your AI goes to OpenTable, talks to its, that AI, and then they say, oh, this is the best location, this is the best price, or whatever it is. And I think that AI to AIs talking to each other might be something we begin to see next year as well. And that could be dangerous for society, if you really think about it. Who knows? Because then it becomes
Oh gosh.
something like the movie Her, if you remember at the end of the movie
Right.
when they pretty much
Well,
took over.
I'm just
Here's
thinking
one.
one hallucinating and forming another one. Yeah, that sounds a
Yeah.
little scary.
Here's one
So,
I like. Here's one I like, and I had a lot of hope for this. Is tokenized real world assets will continue to grow. So this idea of tokenizing properties, like we have a project on North Captiva, and we've talked about funding it through coins. It'll be a $5 million development of 3 homes, luxury homes on the island, and we could solicit using Reg CF and filing with the SEC can allow you to raise money using tokens. And I think because of the way that crypto and Bitcoins come back, this idea that it's this negative thing, and I think just being popularized in the election by both parties coming out and saying this is actually pretty good. I think we're going to see a lot more use cases of tokenization. I know we did 2 really cool episodes on tokenizing real estate. If you go to startup.club and you search for them, you can get some pretty good stuff. But I think we should run another episode on that one next year. I really think that's an area of change. And the more of these, I know SPACs, special purpose acquisition companies, got a bad name, and they probably should have gotten a bad name. A lot of not so great companies were going public using them. But the fact of the matter is, our country, every country around the world for the most part, but it's been dominated by venture capital who have this concept of liquidation preferences. Basically, we get taken care of first, and the startups get taken care of second. And so when we can see alternative methods of raising money, such as tokenizing coins or special purpose acquisition vehicles, we can begin to see how entrepreneurs can raise money without the traditional venture capital. I'm not saying that's going to go away. That's always going to be there. But there are some downsides of venture capital. We talk about that in the book. I won't go there right now because we're focused on 2025. And in 2025, I know at Startup Club, we'll have, we talked about this as having, we're booked till March, but having an open mic every second week, or at least every third week, where we do bring on people from the community and we can talk about these issues. Because I sometimes think this is the shows are better and they're more ad hoc versus always having the expert on. But we do have some really good experts on. And if you want to know what's happening in 2025 in the startup world, you want to understand when the right time is to sell with the time to sell index. You want to get good AI tips. You want to get in-depth growth hacks. We have a newsletter. We have a website, startup.club. Sign up to that email list and you will be in the know. Like we want to help startups succeed in 2025. Any last words from anyone on the stage before we close it out? Shadows.
I just did a quick check when you were talking about the tokenizing. Have you looked at Gary Vaynerchuk's project with the Fly Fish Club?
No, I haven't. That's something
That's
I will check out.
that's a tokenized restaurant membership,
Oh, I
and it
love it.
has opened its doors in Manhattan.
I have heard of that, and actually, they did a really nice piece on it on CNBC about a week ago. It was very interesting what they're doing there.
It's a private dining
Yeah,
club where
because
membership is
Yes.
purchased as an NFT on the blockchain, and it allows members to own, sell, or lease their memberships, providing flexibility and a sense of ownership. He started planning this about 4 or 5 years ago.
yeah, it was like our token we started 4 years ago, but then it all fell apart. And the idea of actually selling, even if it's a hard asset, a token, it just seemed like foreign. Now I think that's a trend. I think you're right. I think we're catching one of those trends that are going to hit in 2025, which is tokenizing hard assets. It's different than than what with like even Ethereum and all these coins that come out. I think Dogecoin, whatever. There's no hard assets behind it. It's more like Tether. Tether is dollar for dollar with the U.S. government, but let's say you have a piece of real estate that's worth $5 million, and then you sell $5 million in coins. That's what we're talking about here. And but one of the keys is to make certain that if you ever go down that path, is to ensure you have the right legal structure in place. And the U.S. government set up this really cool reg called Reg CF, Regulation Crowdfunding. Who's talking about that today was Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, who's been on Startup Club, by the way. I talked to him about, I don't know, 2 years ago on Startup Club. And he talked about tokenized crowdfunding for TikTok. His idea, he's going to be a bidder. He wants to bid on TikTok. I don't know how much it's going to cost, maybe 50 billion or something like that. And then he wants to do a crowdfunding for that TikTok using tokens or using that regulation. Now, there's limits to Reg CF. I think it's like 5 million. Reg A plus is 75 million. So I'm not exactly certain how he's going to do that unless he does an IPO, but we'll see how he does it. Maybe he'll do a special purpose acquisition vehicle. I have absolutely no idea how he's going to do it. Or he'll just do a full IPO. Why not? But we will definitely see. That's another prediction. We are definitely going to see a change in ownership at TikTok in 2025.
I think,
Yeah.
Colin, that we're around the corner to go to economics where the economic system, the whole thing is going to be designed around the cryptocurrency tokens, um, be- mixing between the both world, like getting the unlimited supply in the circulation in the markets and how the utilities are working through this ecosystem. It's going to be the next big thing. Maybe everyone in specifically in the startup environment, you're gonna be thinking of. You have to think of what's next for your startup, even if you're having one currently. You're gonna have to think how if there is any possibility to tokenize your current company. As I'm thinking about this, Colin, and because you're the expert in this point, as a form of scale for the company. And I really want to know what you think about it.
I think any way that you can raise money easier for startups is good. And I think all of these options are excellent. I think with the advent of AI, I'm going to combine a couple of trends here. With the advent of AI, this idea that you can write a business plan or do a prospectus, do a private placement memorandum using AI substantially to write it, which includes risk factors and those kind of things, and then actually do a Reg CF. When we did ours for .club, it was about $25,000 with lawyers' fees. I gotta believe now you can do it with a few $1,000s. You can write one of these things, and also the Start Engine and our crowd, like a lot of them have the documents all standardized now for these kind of types of things. But you've been listening to Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, Serial Entrepreneur Secrets Revealed. It is a live show. Join us every Friday in 2025 at 2 o'clock Eastern to talk to experts, authors, Michelle, the community, Shadows. Sometimes Mimi and Kyle like to come in and talk as well. But if you also want to just go to the website and read the articles, today we just published using AI, believe it or not, yeah, using AI. We published the top 25 best must read books to help you start your business on AI, and that's on startup.club. Club. And believe it or not, we use Grok. And I love the criteria that we developed to help Grok make the decisions. So thank you very much. And we'll see you all in 2025.
Have an amazing holiday, everyone. Be safe. And thank you for being on Startup Club.